I was reading a post earlier that said the housing crisis is more of a credit supply issue than an actual supply issue. Yes, bro, it's so funny. It's not that we shouldn't be building more supply of houses. I agree with that. But people tell me that the reason housing prices are so high is there's no supply. And I promise you, in a place like Texas or Florida, there's never been more supply. What the problem is, nobody wants to lower their prices. They're due for a pretty big crash. Texas or Florida are both due for a crash right now. Rent is going down in Austin because there's actually there's a lot of places up for sale, more than there was pre-COVID. But none of those people yet are drastically cutting prices. There's just no demand. There's no demand at the prices they're asking for. They're all like saying, okay, don't worry, we can just wait it out. But they're starting to get spooked. They're starting to get spooked. There are places in the country that have low supply. We have different markets in America. But in like some of the boom area, the recent boom areas, I'm thinking specifically of like Florida and Texas. You look at the Zillow and the Redfin and all that, there's more supply than ever, but they're just not cutting it yet. All these rich owners are still holding out and they can get the same prices they expect, but nobody's buying. And everyone's praying for interest rate cuts. My landlord in Florida raised my rent $1,205 a month. Your rent essentially doubled. You were paying what, $1,600? Now you're paying $2,800. And did you tip them? That's what happens when you don't tip. I'm sorry, but they have to get paid somehow. It's the hardest job in the world. And if you don't tip, they're going to raise it. What I would say, moving sucks, but especially in Florida, look around, dude. You can probably start to get some really, especially in like some of these newer apartment developments that are more desperate. You can find some better deals. You can get like first 2 months free. You can get some deals because they're starting to get desperate. They're raising your rent, hoping you won't look around. But I know that sucks to move. Dude, I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed that Joe Biden said he's going to put a national rent cap tax. This shit doesn't work. It's never worked because when you try to do price controls, what you end up happening is just supply disappears. It ends up being either a black market where they find other ways for you to pay up or down, or the amount of things available just disappear. Then how do you fix it? Again, in places where there's oversupply, it's already happening. People just need an alternative. If you really want to fix it, here's actually one of the best ways to do it. There's this website called RealPage, which is being sued right now. RealPage, if you want to know what they do, they get all of the landlords in an area on the same system that artificially keeps their prices the same. RealPage is a illegal monopoly collusion devil company. It's collusion. And so instead of like one guy who owns a building down the street being like, I can charge $100 less rent and I'll get all the people to move over here. They all collude and they agree in an area to own all the supply and not drop their prices so they can maximize their revenue. If they were all operating independently, as what happens in a normal market, they would compete on price and then they would drive the cost down until the supply and the demand meet. But this is like cartel shit. So there is a lawsuit on this. I would love to see someone talk about this in politics. This would be awesome. This affects Americans directly. Like, this RealPage shit is like super popular. It's in a lot of markets. And it's one of the main reasons, like, you'll see suspiciously the same rents all over on different places. They have been sued. They are sued. But why not all of them make the rent $10,000 a month? It's a good question. A little silly, but it's a good question. It's essentially what RealPage is doing, which is they're all capping it at a really high number. Their goal is to at least fill the rents. But if they made it too high, what people would do is they would live at home. That's what they're doing right now. That's why a lot of these places are going empty. If people have an alternative that they don't want to do, but they can do, eventually they will go live with their parents, or they'll live at home, or they'll, what they've been pushing? There was a Zillow ad it was like, people should get two of their best friends and buy a house together. That's what they're trying to do to keep the housing market up. There's a lot of like this last gasp of people trying to find ways to get you back into houses at absurd prices, but people don't want to pay these prices. And so it's the same thing with fast food. So the fast food prices raise and raise and raise, and everyone's getting more and more annoyed. And then eventually they finally do what they don't want to do, which is stop eating fast food. They finally just find an alternative to the category altogether. They go somewhere else. And that's when that whole system starts to collapse. Their stock starts tanking, they have to cut prices. And so I think that is what you're going to see happen in markets like Florida and Texas right now, because nobody is buying houses at those prices. And they can't hold on forever. They can't just sit there with these houses like unfilled that they spent a lot of money for, and they're paying. A lot of them are bought with debt, and they have to keep paying the mortgages, and they're not filled. They can't make any money on it. They have to cut prices. What about a tax on empty apartments/houses? I think that's probably a fine idea. You have to think through the implications of these things. Government policy can often have unintended consequences that, even if well-meaning, can be really bad for average people. I think what it would lead to is a black market. Like there's already a lot of mortgage fraud for houses that are, you can get a lot of tax credits and things if you're a first-time home buyer. And there's a lot of people that pretend to be first-time home buyers in order to buy a bunch of Airbnb properties. And that's really common, not just in America, but in Canada. Huge amounts of mortgage fraud for people trying to get unique advantages for houses they buy and then flip. What you'd want is like better enforcement already. If they're already getting away with that, does one person need to crack and lower the house by 100K and it snowballs? It's not just one person, but yes, basically. There's a bunch of unfilled houses, right? Let's say there's a bunch of houses for sale right now in these hot markets like Austin or whatever. There's a bunch of houses for sale. And some of those people are more desperate than others to sell. Some of the people maybe they have a divorce, maybe they have mortgage payments they can't make, maybe they lost their job, whatever. They have to sell. And so they are right now holding the line and keeping prices high. They're saying, I won't sell for less than this absurd price that everything has risen to. But if nobody buys, then eventually they have to start cutting prices because they are desperate, because they have to make the money from selling the house. So once they start cutting, that starts lowering the values of everything around it. And then all of a sudden, everyone else needs to start cutting to keep up. Real estate groups will offer a free kitchen. I mean, it's the same thing that they did in China, where they offered gold bars, but kept the price high. Like you would buy a house for $200,000 and they would give you $100,000 of gold after you bought it. But that way they could officially sell it for $200K, so it wouldn't drop the price of houses around it. They want the book value to stay high so it doesn't cause a panic in the value. So it's happening here too. How does the market know what's an absurd price versus what inflation has risen to? It's based around what the consumer can afford. It's basically like prices versus income. So like, what are the incomes in the area and what can they support to live in? The price to income ratio has gotten out of control. It's like never been higher. They literally are doing this in America. I should buy a house and get a 45-day rebate. Yeah, exactly. No, it's happening. It's happening. They're very careful to try and keep the prices from nominally falling. But again, them just being flat in a world of inflation already means they're falling, and they are falling because they can't sell them. I'm gonna give an update on China's situation tomorrow. I did a lot of reading on it. I think it's very interesting. But if you want the short answer, is that China real estate is still in a bad spot. Yeah. Actually, it's gotten worse. But they are sort of semi-balancing it with growth in really just like three key areas, which is like solar, EVs, and batteries, which is where China's kind of thriving. They're trying to move up the value chain, but rest assured, like a huge part of their last 10, 15, 20 years of growth has been through real estate and public works projects, and a lot of them are being written down. So there's real problems. There's real unrest and problems, especially because local governments in China, like think of like a state government, like Alabama or whatever. Local governments in China have made all of their money, not by taxes really, but by selling land to real estate developers. And now that's drying up. They can't pay for government services. Would it be a good idea if we could remove all tax loopholes / benefits? Removing tax loophole and having a simple, clear tax system, would that be good? Nah. I think we can all agree. There's one thing we can all agree on at all levels of society, that our current tax system is perfect. Regardless of political background, it's good. That's a great question. I'm glad I can answer it. Yeah, if anything, it should be a little more complicated. If anyone is filing taxes without hiring a tax attorney, then we've got a problem. There needs to be people whose entire life is dedicated to helping people richer than them avoid taxes. That should be their whole, everything they study. They should study that, live it, and die it. They should start firms entirely dedicated to keeping people from paying taxes and finding loopholes. And no, yeah, of course, I agree. I think a simple, clear tax code would be awesome. It would be a huge benefit to everybody who's not rich enough to hire a tax attorney. Everyone pays 1K tax a year, easy done. Okay, that's not gonna work. First of all, it hits people who are really poor really hard, and it hits people who are rich not at all. Can't everyone afterpay their taxes for like a year ago so it's not that big? It's a genius plan. I did see that somebody on my Reddit apparently bought an Enron hat with Afterpay, and so I've come around on it. I am now extremely pro Afterpay. Wow, it's so good. I didn't realize it would benefit me. It's so smart, because then you don't have to pay it all at once. Matriarch's Klarna hack. That's what it's called. The Atriarch Klarna hack. My hack to just using Klarna to buy things. It's just my classic advice. Dude, someone else saw something. Wait, what was it? Oh, they deleted it. Oh, dude. It was on our Afterpay 6 days ago of someone saying, aiming to pay them all in a month. And it was like their $1,800 in Afterpay bills. They had like bought 114 different things on Afterpay, and it was like, yeah, 91 upcoming payments. Like every day they had a new payment due. And then it's all these comments of people that are like, yeah, I do the same thing. I rack up debt quick on DoorDash. DoorDash accepting Afterpay is my arch nemesis. People are just buying DoorDash meals on Afterpay and not thinking, oh man, I gotta pay for that. This is what I was talking about, bro. This is what I'm saying. This shit's a problem. This made me want to cry. I'm sure you have notification after notification. And then he's got strategies to avoid the notifications. Damn, I hope you can pay them all off and not lose your Afterpay account. That's the biggest worry. Oh God, I hope you can pay them all off so you don't lose your Afterpay account, so you can keep afterpaying. That shit's cooked to me. Why is it a problem? Simply take the other side of the loan and then collect. What do you mean by that? Take the other side of your own loan. You loan yourself money and then collect. What is? What do you mean? What is that strategy? It's like booking an Uber for yourself. You text yourself, hey, I want to go here, and then you drive yourself there. And then you give yourself a 5-star rating. And you feel good the rest of your day. That's actually pretty dope. That's a passive income. You can even get paid on your way to work. That's awesome.